So I'm going to present to you in English. I hope that's fine for everyone. Today I'm going to talk about AI-assisted module design. So really, it's about sharing my own experience as someone who is a Drupal developer and a relatively new one that's not been building custom modules for a while. How I have been using AI and how I think it could be positive and could help. So about me, my name is João Galamba. For those Portuguese people in the audience, I know what you're thinking about. Don't worry, I'm not related to the other guy. For those that are not Portuguese, it's about a politician who shares the same name. So don't worry about it. I work at Anfiteatro, Portugal, and I've been a Drupal developer there for 2 years. On this presentation, I'm going to start and talk a bit about AI and large language models, just something really short, just to make sure we're all on the same level, on the same page. Then I'm going to take you through the demo, so like some small use cases that I have made and that I wanted to show you. Go to some key takeaways, and then maybe if you want, you could share your own experience on programming and the use of AI. So, AI with Drupal and large language models. Here when I'm talking about AI, I'm of course talking about LLMs, which are simply programs where you input some text, you have the LLM in the middle, and it can predict the output text based on your input. Of course, these models are trained on parameters, on billions of parameters, and only because of this training can they then have the accurate prediction, so to say. Yeah, just simply, I think this is the basic that I think everyone knows, but it's always good to repeat it if someone is not that familiar with LLMs. You have input text, it goes through the magic box, and it predicts the most probable outcome. Now, for my demo, I used just good old simple ChatGPT, in this case 4. No particular reason for it. I think it's just what I was using at the time. I think you would get the same results if you would use a Copilot or your preferred model. So, if someone doesn't know, this is an example of an LLM, one of the most used ones. I think the most recent version is probably GPT-4o, but these things, no, there's a new one already. Oh, these things move so fast that you always need to be up to date with these things. So, I was using ChatGPT for this. Now, developing modules with AI. I divided, this is like a personal thing, I divided the capability that you can have in two. So the first one is like the most normal use case, how you would use an LLM for anything. So you just have your prompt, you make a request, you want something, want it to solve a problem, and you write your prompt as detailed as possible, trying to pass all of the details that you have, and you get an answer. For me, I think this use case is really useful, not only for the generated code, that's fine, but I find myself sometimes, because this first prompt is really so important, and you want to get all the detail in there, you want to explain your problem. I don't know if you have similar, if the same has happened to you, but I found myself sometimes, I was writing this problem on ChatGPT, and when I finished, I was like, oh, I see what's wrong. I just need to explain this to someone or to something, and yeah, have a little rubber duck to talk to. Yeah, but so this use case with a prompt, it can be used, as you all know, for code generation. Something that I tried that was a bit more difficult for it. I'm going to talk about it was test case generation and, of course, documentation. The second part is where instead of writing a prompt or just a prompt, you also try to give it a piece of code, and you have it try to interpret this piece of code with the context that it has. This way can be challenging, and of course we always need to keep in mind what code are we putting in there. So maybe we're just doing something for the community, just open source module, maybe that's fine. Maybe I can just dump all of the code in there, no problem. Maybe you are working on something else, and we need to think about, okay, should I really be putting this in here? Maybe, maybe not. It's one of those things that we always need to keep in mind. So, for the demo, this started a couple of years ago with a custom module that me with some other team members were building. This was really when we were starting out, maybe, I don't know, 1 year and a half of experience. So we were doing this really simple module for Drupal that was all about accessibility. So we had just a custom block. It had a couple of plugins that you could configure, and you would get a custom block on your theme that would allow users to change font size, change the colors, you know, all of that accessibility functionality. And then we had a back office form just so that editors could choose which ones were useful or not. So something really simple. But then, as it sometimes happens, we did this development and it just stayed there. It was kind of forgotten about. Then some time ago, I stumbled on it, looked at it, oh, yeah, we did that one time. And I thought it would be interesting to use the module as a basis to see what I can do to it with AI, so more in a maintenance kind of thing. So administrators can choose the plugins that they want and they don't want. And then I also did that second option that I told you. I put in some of the code. In this case, I think it was for the back office form for the plugin configuration. And I asked, okay, I have this code, how can I improve it? And there went ChatGPT, gave me a list with things like you should really use the dependency injection. Oh, it looks like you don't have the permission set up. You should really do that if you want to have a good module. You know, like useful, good tips for someone that would still be starting out and maybe wouldn't think about all of these things. And yeah, I was pretty happy with that, so I decided, okay, let's go a bit further. So how about you take the advice that you gave me and implement it. So let's see how that turns out. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. I was expecting it to have some issues, but since the base code was so simple and it was something that is honestly common, it's something that's done by a lot of projects everywhere, just a back office form. Yeah, the results were pretty good. I was pretty happy with that. And because that went well, I kept pushing. So, okay, that refactoring was good. So now let's implement the access control. I told him, I don't know how to implement this. How can I do it? Can you show me? And again, since this was a more trivial task, the results were pretty good. It worked. There weren't any obvious errors, and the result was pretty good. So yeah, I was pretty happy with that. So I decided to make things a bit harder and try to generate some unit tests for the code. And then, yeah, as you probably can imagine, that's when it all went a bit wrong. So yeah, I asked ChatGPT, okay, you have my code, you help me improve it. So now I want to go further. I want to implement unit tests for this function. And at first glance, it did. It gave me something. We had tests for all of it. It was fine. But as you dig deeper and you start actually running the tests, as you look at it, you start seeing, okay, now that we need to do something that is a bit more dedicated for this code, that's not so out of the box, you see, okay, this is starting to get hard. But still, I didn't give up. I tried, debugging it, pushing it further, trying to see, okay, are we ever going to reach a place where this test gives me something? And the answer was, unfortunately, not really. Yeah, question?
So you give it code, and you say, generate unit tests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if the code has incorrect behavior, would the test
also have
define incorrect behavior as the desired test result?
Yeah, I think that probably happened. Yeah.
Maybe it should be like PDD instead of
yeah.
Because I think it's a design concern.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a two-way concern.
Yeah.
It has the desirable side effect of doing some degree of QA,
mm-hmm.
but you test to design, you test to develop your intent, and not backward tests into whatever you have. So, test-driven design,
Yeah. Okay. So, moral of the story really didn't work out. So yeah, I wanted to keep going. Tests didn't work, and I thought to myself, what's something else that we could do? Something that's really useful, but sometimes missing. Maybe we don't really like doing it. And then I remembered documentation. That could work. Large language models know how to write things that make sense. So yeah, that could be a good implementation. So there I went. ChatGPT had the context for my code, and I asked it, okay, now give me some documentation for this code. And yeah, results were, for this use case, much better. It gave me an overview of what the module does. Most of it was taken from my initial description, of course, but also you could notice a lot of things from the comments on the code, getting some functionalities from there. But yeah, it gave me some simple documentation, just an overview of the module, the features that it has, gave the installation procedure and the configuration procedure. I think that's what we want. On the case of the installation, I wasn't really happy with its response because it told me, okay, you should install the module manually with a zip. So I told it, no, we don't want none of that. Let's do it with Composer. And yeah, simple fix. It regenerated everything, and there we go. So basic documentation, but I think basic documentation is better than no documentation. So yeah.
On the other hand, no documentation is preferable to misleading documentation.
Yeah, of course. So we can't just let ChatGPT write everything and directly publish it. Someone has to read it and make sure it makes sense. That's one of the points that I'm going that I want to emphasize. So we need common sense when we are using AI. Of course, we need to use our heads, not just input, take the output, and throw it wherever. Yeah. So quickly to summarize this. The refactoring, since it was simple code, I think that went really well. There were some small mistakes, but really things that when you are looking at the output, that of course you must do, it was really easy to fix. And that, again, tests didn't go that well. Now, for the key takeaways, I think that if used with care and as a tool like any other, I think AI can be really useful for developers. Even like what I said before, just have a rubber duck. If you can't talk to your team member because he's in another one of those meetings, just have your rubber duck to explain your problem, and maybe you figure it out by yourself. And again, like I said, it's just a tool. Tools are good at some things, not so good at others. We need to know what we are doing. If what we ask of an LLM is something that it can actually do, or if it's just going to give us some gibberish that maybe makes sense to someone that doesn't know much about it. I'm going to speed up a bit. Okay. So yeah, this AI thing, I think it's something that's here to stay. We're going to need to adapt, learn to work with it, use it to the best of our abilities, and also, yeah, just use it, but also use your head. That's the basic outtake. And now, just to end, I wanted to maybe hear from you and know, is this something that you like to use while programming, while developing? Do you not like it? Do you not use it? Do you prefer to just, yeah?
I can share my myself. For now, they're not in the same way as here.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I think helped me was in the setting to define I'm a Drupal developer using Drupal 10. Because if you don't, you get errors from the line 7 layers. And now please provide concise answers because it usually takes a lot. It creates a lot of text that is useful. And another one, small tip is please provide me all the snippets that change because if you have a very large PHP document, it will generate all and it takes a lot of time. It's like a tip, like I want to change this. And I don't know if now I prefer Sonnet from AI. But there's also a new model from OpenAI that is O1 that contains reasoning. So the AI itself will say, okay, let me think about it, and it thinks, and it makes steps to do it, and then put it out. But what I'm using currently is Cursor. I don't know if you heard of it. It's a fork from VS Code, and it's another level because you say, I want to do a module that does this, and it will create the file with all the input there, and do all stuff. It's like magic, and you can discuss it as composer, and it's very nice. And I think probably the future will be more along those lines. And there's a new project called Pythagoras that also tests the code and say, I have a problem, let me try again. So I think that's how it depends.
And that's integrated with VS Code, right?
Yeah, it's a fork of VS Code. So VS Code is open source. So they keep VS Code, and it's the same, and it brings all your plugins from VS Code. The layout is slightly different. There's a menu kind of different and new panes. But if you know VS Code, you'll know that one.
That's something I wanted to ask if any of you use those plugins integrated with your IDE or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, in Latvia, we currently have probably 90% of developers use React.
Yeah.
It was like top-down mandatory. You have to use React. And the good effect we saw is on explaining. It's not making code. Making code is terrible. Tests even worse.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying TGD works fine. If you say, I want tests, and then from those tests you create code, that probably works. But not the other way around because it's going to have an interpretation.
Yeah.
But the thing that works really well is that you have some junior person reviewing someone else's PR, and then on the fly you ask, in this case it's Copilot. Yes, please explain this code. I want to understand what's being done here. Because a junior will take, I don't know, like 2 hours maybe, walk through, and right there, like you said, the documentation will be automatically generated. Because some coders don't like to document the things.
Yeah.
I agree with Manel. Sometimes it's better not to document the wrong things.
True.
But the fact is, if you ask it, and I call it it because we need to be very clear what is the gender here. If you ask it what is being developed there, it will do a good job explaining it. So for an entry-level developer,
really good.
Really helps. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, one successful use case I had, I run a small nonprofit, and there was a project that was abandoned a long, long time ago, and I wanted to, is this be useful now? And I used language model Claude, in this case, to explore the unknown legacy code base and explain it to me. And it was, I don't know if you know the concept of centaur chess.
Not really.
It's chess played by human-computer combinations.
Mm.
AI sidekick in this kind of thing, I get it. As an authoring tool, I think we're not there yet. But it can be quite useful in exploring a relatively unknown space. And if you feed back the context that you gained previously into the model, it does get useful. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
Lunch.